In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. What's up, Xeno? How's it going, Dit?
It's alright. I'm waiting for the stream to catch up because I want to see what you did.
Ooh, we changed something.
Oh, it's crazy. It's so crazy.
Does it look good?
Yeah.
You like it?
Yeah. Probably less of my face and more of your face, but you get the idea.
I mean, like, I want to see your lovely face too. I mean, let's be honest, that's why people are watching. Ooh, what do you have there? Please recycle me.
Oh. It's just on the top of my drink. I'm like, yeah, please recycle me.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So, to get in today easy, with a very easy question, do you think Warframe is dying, and when will it die?
Is that the question we were doing?
No, it's not.
It's so rude.
I thought we'd go into it very easy. No, today we're going to be talking about is Warframe, are Warframe updates sustainable? So last week we talked about, does the dev stream overhype? And I thought it was a super interesting topic that we talked about. And I just realized something. So for a little bit of background, yesterday, Xeno and I had a little bit of a discussion about how we could improve things. One of those things was this little like picture-in-picture thing, so that you can see both of us while the other person is talking. And the other thing that he said is like, you gotta watch out, don't say So I just caught myself doing it. I'm gonna watch myself. There we go. It's super. Damn it!
Take your time. There's no need to rush. We're all here. We're all having a good time.
So that's a little thing you might see me do. Anyway, so last week we had this first podcast where someone came on with a comment and they said that 2 to 3 weeks with an update is fine, but what's not fine is 2 to 3 weeks and then an update and the update is just going to be some fashion stuff, some fashion grind, when not everyone is being stylish. Basically what they said is I want to play the game for what I signed up for, being a deadly space ninja. And I just feel that Warframe should take a look at this one talk at the GDC, so the Developers Conference of Path of Exile, about how they make Path of Exile forever update, how their plan, how their structure is. And that got me really interested. I actually checked out the entire lecture that they did there, or the entire talk. And that got me wondering with the recent content, drops, which with the way that DE is trying to what kind of updates do they bring out? How do they bring out updates? Is there a plan that we can figure out behind it? And if we look at the climate right now, is it sustainable? Are people is it sustainable? I'm kind of off the track right now, I think.
Okay, so I'm gonna jump in here.
Mm-hmm.
And when did you start playing?
I started playing in 2013, like right after launch into open beta.
Right. So you are quite. I don't like that being zoomed out. So maybe if I. Oh, no, that's the wrong way. Yeah, that's the right way. Yeah. Anyway, so I was playing with my webcam because I've noticed like there's such a huge comparison. Like I was like right here. Sorry, distracting. Mm-hmm. Apologize. So you started right around the time I started. So you're able to have the same sort of a similar opinion as me, where in the early days you would get like a patch week after week after week, right? There was a new game mode like every other month. Sorry, every other month? Something. It was really, really frequently. And now we have this huge paradigm shift in how frequent a update comes.
Mm-hmm.
And personally, I feel that it depends on the nature of the update.
Mm-hmm.
Right? with the likes of Plains of Eidolon, with Fortuna, with Nightwave, the first season of Nightwave, I thought that they had hit the nail on the head, and they had produced content that we could experience for months, right? Especially Nightwave. They did a really, really good job on that. But with the likes of, and this is the one I'm going to pick on, probably for the majority of this. The one that I disliked the most was the Plains of Eidolon remaster. They did a really good job at introducing the one quality of life update, which was being able to pick up bounties at different camps within the environment. Beyond that, none of the other quality of life stuff was addressed. And people were like, oh, you know, we've got bounty, we got a Nightwave task, which is go do 8 or 10 bounties on the Plains of Eidolon. And no, it's there wasn't enough there to make it viable. I don't know anyone that has done things like the Thumpers for any other reason than it's just fun. So I really feel that it depends on the update itself.
All right, so I think we have put forward why we're doing this question right now. That's what I was trying to get at a little bit, and I got lost in. So thank you so much for expanding on that, explaining it, and putting it out there. Why we're looking at this question, and I think that to address it, we got to take a look at first what are the Warframe updates that we're getting. So what kind of Warframe updates did we get back in the day? What kind of updates are we getting right now? What's the philosophy, or what might be the philosophy behind the updates that they're doing? And if we can distinguish a philosophy, if we can see trends or changes, would what we currently have be classified as sustainable? So basically we have two questions. What do the Warframe updates look like right now, and what may they have looked like in the past, and what will they most likely look like in the future? And what would an update need to look like, or need to be classified as, to be sustainable? And if we have an idea of what the update is and the past of the update, and then so if we know what a Warframe update is, and if we know what a sustainable update is, then we can compare these two and see, do they overline? Is a Warframe update, are they at the moment sustainable, and will they be sustainable in the future? And I think that would be a great place to start. Would you agree?
Yeah, no, I agree.
All right, so do you first want to get into the Warframe updates, how they've evolved over time, or what they are right now? What do you see with Warframe updates, or do you want to get into making a sustainable update?
I think let's talk about what it was years ago, because I don't know how many of our audience right now have been in Warframe and how long they've been here, so they may not know what it was like.
All right,
5 years ago, 6 years ago.
So let's get into a little research that I've done for this podcast. What I've done right here is I have a document right here. You can also see it on screen. What we have here is a full list of all the Warframe content updates. So it's not just the updates. It's not just the updates that were hot fixes or skins or whatever. It were just pure content updates. So either a playable Warframe was added, either a playable weapon was added, either a new game mode was added. So like a pure primary content update. All those updates are right here. What you can see is bold underlined is like a new update number. I do believe that update numbers are pretty important these days. And you have smaller updates, you have bigger updates, more important updates are bold. It kind of makes sense. But the most important thing right here is if you take a look at the start of Warframe. Warframe launched closed beta in October 25th, 2012. Update 1 was a day later. Update 2 was 3 days later. Update 3 was a day later. Update 4 was 3 days later. So, yeah, Warframe updated really rapidly. Now, this is really early days, so this is not even like what we're looking at specifically, but just to give you an idea of like the way Warframe updated at first, and then I think update 5 is what we're going to be looking at when it comes to when you want to explain how Warframe updated back in our day.
Yeah.
So I've been going over this, and I actually feel that we've seen a bit of a shift in Warframe, in the Warframe updates and the way that they're doing it. So let me explain to you what did Warframe look like in 2013, and how did they start out, and what did they move into. So what you see at the start is from update 5 up to update, I think update 6, update 7 or so. I think update 6. So what you see right here, update 1, 2, 3, and 4 are just basically hot fixes disguised as updates. They're not really interesting. From update 5, it gets interesting. This is all closed beta. We have Give 'em Hack, Blazing Embers, Hammer Time. These were all released very closely after each other.
So can I just quickly clarify something? On here, you've got 1 month and 16 days. Is that since the last update?
All right. So when there's a bold, when we have like an update number, there is in bold, it's 1 month and 60 days since the last update number, because I do think update numbers are important. Because why do they have update numbers? And then behind that is how long it's been since the last like update with content. So if that was just a Tenno Reinforcements, then it's like what you will see is that they will throw up like big updates like a week after like a Tenno Reinforcements, which is there is a difference between releasing one weapon and releasing a new big update. But
so just to clarify, so everyone in the audience can understand, and everyone that's seeing this, we have update 5, December 18th, 2012, 1 month, 16 days. So that's obviously since update 4.
Yeah.
If we have a look at update 6, we got January 29th, 2013, 1 month, 11 days. So that's since update 5. However, the 15 days is since the last Tenno Reinforcements.
Since the last Hammer Time. So what we're seeing in here is during the startup of Warframe, what we had was pretty much weekly there would be an update. And most of the time the weekly update would be every 7 days. Now sometimes they went away from it, but if you take a look from, I think update 6, you have the open beta weekend. From that moment they went into open beta and they were really keen on their weekly updates. So what you're seeing is a new update comes out, new stomping grounds. Most of the time these updates weren't big. They would introduce a new enemy. They would introduce a new tile set, like the Grenier tile set. And then you would have you would have Tenno Reinforcements. You would have Make Love Not Warframe, which was a Valentine's Day event. You have an open beta weekend. Yeah, Tenno Reinforcements a week later. Tenno Reinforcements a week later. Those were like 1 or 2 or 3 weapons that would come out every week, and you can see that continuing on, and the updates go pretty fast. As you can see right here, we're still in 2013, and we're already passing update 8 with a bunch of Tenno Reinforcements, a Spine Extermination event. Then we get into 2013 once the updates have been pretty much like once Warframe has been pretty much out into open beta, and you see that they're going to go hard on operations. So what are operations? Basically they introduced new game modes through operations with for like little storylines, little story plots around like, hey, we have Arid Fear. We're going to introduce this new content, all these new content assets that we have, which are called I don't know what it is. It's the desert thing, the desert tile. They introduced that
the Arid tile.
Yeah.
The Arid, yeah.
And they introduced that through the Arid Fear operation. As you can see, these operations are like 2 weeks away from like Force Revenge, update 9, Force Revenge. 2 weeks later you get an operation. 2 weeks later you get an operation. 7 days later you get a reinforcement, and then 2 weeks and then 14 days later, so 2 weeks later you get a survival weekend. 2 weeks later you get an update 10, Shadows of the Dead, and Necros introduced. 2 weeks later you get another weapon. So you see like a lot of like weapons, new Warframes, operations. I don't know if you want to add on to that.
So this was obviously the early days of Warframe. This was when Damage 1.0 was a thing. You know, the whole elemental damage types, the whole combination damage types didn't exist, right? It was all like crazy damage numbers, so on and so forth. So this was early days when we didn't even have, God, decent weapons and things like that. So it wasn't until Gradivus Dilemma that was really starting to see the peak of weapons coming in that were just outpowering everything. By this point in time, we had the Soma, which was the best gun ever, and I have like crazy number of hours using it. And we had the Brak, which was just the shotgun pistol of doom. Literally, this thing was top tier damage for absolute ages. And I can't remember really when they actually lowered it all down and changed to damage 2.0, but you actually saw a lot of activity due to these updates and things. It certainly made the game feel a lot more alive than, I'm going to be honest, like what today really sees. But obviously we're talking from a perspective that is, we were there from the get-go. We weren't we haven't struggled then like we do now with what we're gonna do.
All right, so so with that we kind of classified. We can sketch a picture of what the early days look like, and I think that we have to take a look at different ages. I think that we can classify 4 periods of updates. We first have the closed beta, where it's basically building the game from the very foundation. You have updates coming out day after day after day, and their update numbers. It's not a big release, it's not a weapon release, it's just building the foundation of the game. Then we move into what we see around like July 2014, September 2014, when we get the Gradivus Dilemma. You get every week you get an update, and every week what you see is Tenno Reinforcements, helmets, new Warframes, sometimes a big operation, and we kind of move on into what I call the second stage, which is weapons every week and a bunch of operations. Because what you're going to see here is you have the Cicero Crisis. Basically, let me sketch you the picture. In October 2014, you have the Gradivus Dilemma. Then in December of 2013, you have the Cicero Crisis. Then in January of 2014, you have Operation Oxygen Espionage. Then in March of 2014, you have Tetris Doom. In between, every week you get new weapons. And you get the Growth Track free. You get Tenno Reinforcements. That may, now, not even 2 months later, you're going to get Spectres of Liberty, which is the rescue operation. Then you get...
That was Rescue 2.0,
Yeah, Rescue 2.0 operation. You have Tenno Reinforcements. You have Depths of the Void that comes out, like Tower Force being added. You have Captain 4 being added there. We have... I just realized... Okay, whatever. I'm like doubling your scene as well.
Yeah. I try to indicate to you, but keep going. Just keep going.
Okay, I'll try and fix that at some point. You have Operation Breeding Grounds coming out in June. So like in May we had Spectres of Liberty. Then in June we have Operation Breeding Grounds. Then we have in August Operation Chaotic Front. Then in September we have. So that's not even 3 weeks later, we have Operation Gate Crash. Then in November, we have Operation Moodless Incursions. And then we have Operation Eyes of Blight in December. So basically, we have a bunch of operations, and every week we have new weapons. So what we see right here is we have small updates, very regularly pushed. It's like every piece of content that they can make, they'll make. And they throw out every week, and then they take this one thing, which is then a new game mode that they developed, which is probably being pipelined a little bit by a separate team, or maybe they're doing that on the side, and that's their bigger project, which comes out every month or every 2 months or every 1.5 months on average. They're not doing insanely big things, but what they're doing is they're adding frequent content to their game. Low key, they're adding very frequent content. That is kind of the second stage when they're in open beta at the start of their game.
Let's reflect a little bit on 2014 before we actually continue on. So, to me, 2014 was one of the high points of DE's release schedule for Warframe. As you said, we had so many new Warframes coming out. This 2014 is absolutely packed. The big thing was we had, not including, Cicero Crisis, not including Gradivus Dilemma, or some of the other operations. We have 8 operations spanning 12 months, which was amazing. Operations carried this amazing weight that you felt that not only were you getting to experience something new, you were getting to experience the game at its high point because everyone was there, everyone was participating. I remember doing Gradivus Dilemma. There was one node, I want to say Mimas, I'm not entirely sure, because I know since then the node has been removed in, what's the name of the Star Chart 2.0 or 2.5 or whatever, that node has been removed since then. But we were fighting for that node, and the Corpus had this huge advantage of a payoff compared to the Grineer. But man, did we fight for it. The Grineer side, which was what we were, like me and Lars, we were fighting Grineer because we felt colonists. It was all about the colonists. No, wait, it wasn't. It was about our brethren. It was about the Warframes. Sorry, that was my bad. Anyway, but I think it took at least 24, if not 48 hours for us to lose that node because the Grineer were just fighting it so much. And one of the big things about the events is that they were characters in this world, much like the Lotus, much like... How often do you hear about Gradivus Dilemma?
A lot.
Yeah, a lot. Gradivus Dilemma was one of the best things ever because you had such amazing dialogue lines such as greedy mill. These are lines that people cannot experience again.
What got me really interested, like what was a big surprise to me, because I know that Gradivus Dilemma was this big thing. I remember it very avidly, and I thought it was like one of the great times in Warframe. But the interesting thing, it was only in the very first year of Warframe, after they've done updates like Hump Day. I don't even know off from the top of my head what that was, but they called an update Hump Day, and then we got Tenno Reinforcements. All of a sudden, out of the blue, springs to Gradivus Dilemma, and it's this beautiful thing. So I feel to older players that have been through that, it feels like you're constantly getting things, but we have to keep in mind that we're constantly getting small things. We're getting the Tenno Reinforcements. We're getting a weapon every week. And the big things that we're getting are the operations, the events, which basically introduced a new game mode, which with the Gradivus Dilemma was the invasions. Is it called invasions or operations?
No, invasions.
Basically, we get the invasions, and they throw a little twist on it, and it's really fun for the community, but it's very fleeting. We're not talking about a second dream level of quality. It did really hit a good note, but it's not a second dream cinematic scene. It's not an open world. It's a new game mode. So I want to take this. This is like, I think it's interesting. We've taken a look at what this period looked like when it came to the way that they updated, and we've also looked into like how do we look back at it, how do we feel about it. I think that we both agree, because I feel in the exact same way. Actually, I don't think I got a lot more to add to what you say. With basically, it felt like the game was alive. It felt like the operations were a lot more alive, and like events were happening. You were fighting for something. It felt a lot more real. It felt a lot better. So let us move on to the next period, because this goes on for quite some time. Like seriously, you can see, if you look at the updates right here on the sheet, you can see update 13. You have a bunch of Tenno Reinforcements, a bunch of operations. It goes on 2014. We get the Mad Cephalon, which is, I think it's the Jordis crash, the Jordis assassination. Atlas.
Where are you?
Update 14.
14.
Because we're still going on. You can still see Tenno Reinforcements. Sometimes there's more time between, but here we get a tactical alert, and 4 days after the tactical alert, we get Operation Chaotic Front. 2 weeks after that, we get new weapons, and then a week after that, we get another operation. So we're still going on with this idea of small little updates with an operation in between once and again. Then we move on to Arcwing. I think that Arcwing brings about an interesting change, because what we see with Arcwing is we see that Arcwing releases, 20 days later we get our first Tenno Reinforcements, then 2 weeks later we get our operation. We're still in the operation, but they're like drifting a little bit further apart.
Yeah.
We get Stolen Dreams, and kind of around this time it becomes really apparent that Warframe is building up its lore. It's really building up. We get around Stolen Dreams, around the Jordas Verdict, I think it's called the Jordas Verdict, we're getting these storylines. It's like, hey, where before we would have quests, that didn't really matter much because you got a Warframe, it was a quest, it didn't really connect. Operations were great, but they were only events, and the quests weren't really much. Now all of a sudden, like, things started connecting. And then you move on, and then I think we're getting into the Second Dream era, because we're in 2015 already. Very interesting. Operation False Prophet and Achievement of Regular were really, really close to each other. Those seem to be like the final big operations, because then we get the Second Dream, and then you're seeing that the days are spanning further apart. We have Second Dream comes out in December, right here. After 21 days of no content, we get Ring of Fire after 13 days, Tenno Reinforcements after 20 days, and you can see it's getting further and further apart.
Just to highlight, December, January time is often a quiet time because they're having the office shut down and they don't come back, and then when they come back, it's just like, wow, what were we doing?
Yeah. That's right, but we can see more further things apart. I think I wasn't really anticipating that we were going down on this list, so I don't know whether it's all that interesting. What really stood out to me when I was making this list is that if we go down to today, and I'm like, correct me if we're speeding up too much, but I think that we have this very early stage. We have the stage where they were closed beta, they were building their games. Then we have stage 2, where they're releasing content very rapidly, small batches of content. We have events coming out to introduce small game modes, but the events are done really nicely, where we feel that there's always something going on. It feels like the game has a lot of heart. Then we move on to the third stage, where we have more time between the updates. However, because of that, we're getting more interesting quests and more build out, like, towards the Second Dream. And then I think that we can take a look at what I would call period 4, the plains of Eidolon, Fortuna, open world content Droughts. And I want to expand on that, but I just want to make sure. I feel like I've been talking a lot. Whether you agree with those 3 periods, and if you want to add on something to that.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of feel that. Yeah, no. I kind of feel that you're right. Maybe it's just like periods 1 and 2 were sort of like the same period. They were just escalating and growing, sort of like, from baby to child kind of thing. It wasn't so much 2 separate things. It was more like, we are still getting to this, bigger release thing with the Second Dream and the War Within, so on and so forth. But I feel that you're right, that the big crescendo and where it all kind of not so much went downhill, but certainly took a very different turn in release schedule was with Plains of Idol.
Yeah,
so
I do want to comment on that, where it took a turn downhill. I don't think we should be ready to justify this as, or put this down as a negative thing yet, because there's something that I want to throw back. But I wasn't anticipating that we were going to go with this sort of narrative essay style of, hey, we're going to go over the timeline, we're going to look at this. I wasn't prepared for that. We kind of stumbled into that, so I want to finish that off, and then we can take a look at.
Well,
very
tell you what.
Yeah.
Let's just touch on the highlights, right?
Well,
so
we can finish this off pretty quickly with the 4th period, because this is really, really interesting. This is actually what blew my mind. Aside from when I was making this list today, aside from, oh my god, they were releasing everything literally every 7 days. If we go towards 2017, you can kind of start seeing. You see a lot more of the 21 days, 23 days, 15 days, and sometimes it turns back. And then we get into Well, the War Within was an insane period. The War Within was pretty crazy because we have update 18, the Second Dream. I think that the Second Dream turned things around in an interesting way, and I have my reasons I have my ideas as to why that is, but we're gonna get into that in a moment. But what you see right here is it's a big release. Then they're gonna try to get back to like the 7 days, 5 days, and then we get more days. But of course, it's over the holiday period. But then the War Within was supposed to launch, and we don't get a new update. Then we get update Lenaro, and between those times, we're gonna get larger release windows. It takes a lot longer for updates to come out, but it's not as bad as when we get to 2017, when the Plains is supposed to come out. So the Plains comes out. Actually, 2017 is still pretty alright, but then we get to the Plains of Eidolon releases. So remember that during that we've kind of started off this thing with every week new weapons, every 7 days something new. So the Plains of Eidolon releases. Over a month later, we get Operation Plaguestar. 36 days after that, the new piece of playable primary content is Plaguestar. Then we have Tenno Reinforcements a week later. 20 days later, 19 days later, we have Mirage Prime. Then the holidays comes in. Then we have the Gold Purge. And then we get Shrine of the Eidolon 50 days later. Up until that point, there's never been a bigger time window between that. Between like pieces of primary content, and it's not just that, because the next playable primary content is the Zephyr Prime release, which some people would argue Zephyr Prime is basically a reskin of Zephyr. You get some changed stats, but it's not really new. I feel that it is playable content. It is a new Warframe. It is new mastery. It's not a lot, but it takes 50 days to Shrine of the Eidolon. Then after it's 39 days to get to Zephyr Prime, and that's 31 days to get to ESO and Korra. This is the first 2018 content draw that a lot of people refer to. A lot of content creators refer to as well, because it felt like we weren't getting content. And as you can see right here, I think we were pretty right.
I agree. Like I was saying that this period that's highlighted here. Sorry, man, I'm coughing. This period that we're highlighting here it was painful. Like, yeah, okay, we had just after Christmas, we had this downtime and things, but I'm not counting Zephyr Prime. I'm not. Yeah, okay, it's a Prime Warframe. You're not giving us a new environment. You're not. It's like if it was a brand new Warframe like Wisp or Korra or Gara, sure, right? But we're not. We're talking about, as you put it, sort of like a reskin. It's just like, you know.
I do want to interject to that if Warframe releases new weapons every week, a new weapon would be a Thibodeau, or it would be practically a single. It would just be a single weapon. And I think that if you would compare if you were to list Tenno Reinforcements every week as primary content, and I do consider that primary content because you get a new weapon, you get new stats on it, you can play with it, you can rank it up. If you do consider that as content, I do feel that you should also consider Zephyr Prime content as well. Yes, there are weapons that we've already seen. However, it's 2 weapons and 1 Warframe. And I do believe that when you compare that to regular Tenno Reinforcements, it's equal, maybe a little bit more important than that, because people get a little bit more excited when a Prime comes out.
I'll be honest, since we're comparing, I've got to say, like, post the Second Dream, I don't really consider weapons and primes new content. I consider Warframes new content. I don't consider new weapons content. It's like, yeah, okay, it's there. Yes, they are making a livelihood from it. It does not draw me back to the game.
Right? All right, then I think that we have a very interesting thing that I kind of want to tackle right here. What is content? Because I would disagree with you on, especially when you bring up like post-Second Dream, I wouldn't call weapons content. Then what made it change that pre-Second Dream you would qualify a weapon to be content, and then post-Second Dream say, nah, it's not? Would that mean that then post-Second Dream, even if they were to go post-Second Dream, where they were to go back to this period of time where they would release weapons every week, which you said was a really great time, that wouldn't qualify anymore, because most of these updates, which were every week, were weapons, they wouldn't qualify as content for you anymore?
So I think one big step is my own experience, right? Mm-hmm. had a player just started playing the game at the release of the second Dream, then I think that they could easily turn around and say, like, no, this is still content for me, right? I can appreciate that. But you got to take into consideration, I've been playing the game for God knows how many months prior to that, right? And it's a new weapon. Oh, yeah, okay, that's nice. Most of the time, new weapons come, and I would just log into the game, get the blueprint, set it building, come back 12 hours later, and then I can actually pick up the gun and start using it. And then, like, a lot of players, they go out, they max out their weapons, they get to the highest mastery rank they could possibly do. I don't do that. I only do that when, oh, look, people are 27, they are 26, they are 25. I only do it when other players are doing it. And I'm not even 27 yet. I can get there, but I don't want to do K-Drive. I really detest K-Drive. So
I do want to, like, bring up that I do understand your point of view. I'm in the exact same position. But I think if we're justifying whether Warframe, like, the question at hand today is Warframe's update model, or are Warframe updates as they are, or as we're looking at what Warframe updates have been in the past? Because to understand what's happening in the present, you have to take a look at the past and how did they get there. And, like, if we see how they get there, we can see what change or what trend they're going for. We can try and understand that and see if they're continuing on what we think they are doing, is that sustainable or not. I think we're trying to look at answering that question: are Warframe updates sustainable? I think if we're going to start bringing up how it personally feels to you or to me when we get a weapon, because you do concede where you're saying for a new player it might be content, but for me it isn't. Well, then how important is your personal enjoyment to the sustainability of Warframe? How do you, or how do I, for that matter, because I think that we both classify within this veteran-y rank, or I don't want to put this stamp on a veteran, but like long player rank or position. Where are we in the scale of Warframe players, and does our personal dissatisfaction with, or less satisfaction with, a new weapon, it really play that big a deal towards like the overall sustainability of Warframe? Because I'm not so sure on that.
So I would certainly say that my personal enjoyment should not reflect anyone else's personal enjoyment, right? So if I'm not satisfied with something, then no one else should follow suit and, just follow me like a lemming and just go off the edge of a cliff, right? This is my sword to die on. I'm not expecting anyone else to fall on me. I do not find them enjoyable pieces. I do not find new equipment or gear or anything like that enjoyable, because it is just a new gun. For the longest time ever, you would get new pieces of equipment that were not top of the tier, they're not top of the list. They were instead filling in this mid gap, right? So, like, there was gap in the middle that these weapons were filling. Now, to answer the part of your question, you were saying how important is it that, the veterans, because I do classify us as veterans. If, we've both been playing since 2013, we are experienced, right? We have gone through the paces, and I feel that we are on the top end of the bell curve. Do you know what I mean by bell curve?
Yeah, I know.
Right, okay. So, most veterans, they give up on Warframe by this point, right? It's not a linear thing, right? It is a proper bell curve, and we're at the top end. So our opinions and things shouldn't heavily influence what DE is trying to achieve, right? However, I'm still entitled to feel how I feel. Yeah? So, yeah. Does that clarify?
Yeah, no, I understand. I'm like understand. I was more trying to get at where we were trying to establish the because we were trying to round off the establishments of like what were update periods and what classified these periods kind of objectively, like looking at the stats, and then I was wondering, like, if we're trying to objectively clarify it, I was afraid that if you were saying, well, to me that doesn't classify it, that doesn't really classify it as content anymore. If you were suggesting that we can't take that out, well, that we have to like not consider something like Zephyr Prime to be a content release in this period of time, but we can consider Tenno Reinforcement their content release because you personally didn't really feel that at that time that was sufficient, then we have a bias conflict within our attempt to objectively create these 4 periods where everyone or people, regardless of their status in the game right now, could somewhat agree upon where we could lay a foundation to move on with the discussion, and they also get into the personal pieces. So that's what I was trying to get at.
So objectively, right? Yes, they are pieces of content, right? But arguably, objectively, Xenogelion is also pieces of content.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, but it's behind my wallet, but at the same time, it's for everyone to experience.
Yeah. So I wanted to get into the Xenogelion things. I think it's a perfect segue into Xenogelion because the criteria that I set up with making this list is that I excluded Xenogelion and skins and reworks because I was looking for the classification of my classification of primary content. So what I call primary content is new content, which is okay. So primary content, I would say new content which can be played. That's a really bad way of stating it. Let me try and distinguish the difference between primary and secondary content by the use of Xenogelion skins. So let's take a Xenogelion skin. I feel a Xenogelion skin is a secondary piece of content because, and with secondary I don't mean it's less important or it's less good. I just mean that if I were to release a Xenogelion skin for a Warframe that doesn't exist, the skin doesn't exist either. Like, you can release that skin, but you can't play it. You can't use it. You can't do anything with it in game because it exists upon the Warframe that comes first, and that's a primary piece of content. If you take a look at a new game mode is something that is there. It exists on its own. So that's what I call a primary piece of content. If we take a look at a rework, which I do think is important, and we can get into the importance of that later, I don't think that you can't rework nothing. You can put an Excalibur in, like, you can't put an Excalibur in where there was nothing. It's a new Warframe and it will exist on its own. A skin doesn't exist on its own. A rework doesn't exist on its own. So that's where I draw the distinction between primary and secondary content. If there was a major change, it is listed in there. I may have like added it in there, but I think that is where I try to like objectively draw the line. But we can, of course, discuss that.
It's difficult because you could argue anything they have to pay money towards is not content, right? Because it's not accessible via any other means. So things like Xenogelion isn't content. But I don't see that's fair because people, first off, consoles have a completely different setup to PC players, right? Players have to play with real money, whereas console players can actually pay with platinum, right? So that is an advantage on their side. And they can earn platinum via a multitude of different ways, including trade chat. Gives me an idea to do nothing but trade chat for my Steam version. Sorry, Switch version. Anyway, the next big thing is when a new piece of equipment comes in, like a rework or something like that, I would argue, yes, you could objectively say that is a rework. To me, the Oberon rework was a huge thing, right? Because it allowed me to play Oberon with his ability set. Because, you know, before I was just like, I'm Oberon, I shoot guns. I mean, what more do you want? But now his abilities make him truck tons more survival.
Mm-hmm.
Things like Wukong, Valban, other Warframe. Oh, Saren. You know, there are loads of Warframe. Limbo. They've had reworks and things. I'm just going to name another one and just interrupt myself. Those are certainly pieces of content that people can experience and enjoy. You know, people have. I've gone back to Nyx since the deluxe skin came out, the Step and Sage one, because Step and Sage is a huge artist that I adore.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know, I was like, yep, I'm on board for that. I'm gonna play me some Nyx. I have no idea how you play Nyx. Someone get me a build for Nyx. You know, but so to me, that is certainly a way that a skin is content. You know.
Okay, so let me.
That was a little all over the place. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Okay. So let me try and like piece things together. So first of all, I totally agree with you that money does not make a distinction, and I wasn't like I hope that you didn't see me making that point. I wasn't trying to make that point at all. The only difference that I make is whether it can stand entirely on its own, because this is one thing, and this is one thing which I think is really important to take a look at, is how marketable is it. So I'm gonna kind of touch into the talk that I've seen through that was recommended to me with the previous podcast, and I thought it was pretty interesting. So Path of Exile, for those of you who don't know, is a game that kind of launched around the same time as Warframe. It's an entirely different game than Warframe, but it launched around the same idea. It's also a live service like Warframe is, before it was the buzzword and everyone was excited about it and everyone wanted to do their own anthem. And it kind of built itself up just kind of the same way that Warframe did. It started out with the launch, and then it had weekly content updates, and they've kind of like gone over that, and they've created their own strategy. It's a really interesting video, and would definitely recommend if you want to see it, check it out. I'll leave a link in the description below. If you're watching this as a video, if you're watching this as a stream, just like message me on Discord. I'll get it to you.
Why don't you put it in the description of the video?
Yeah, I'll put it in the description of the video, but if they're watching it right now, I don't have the description right here. I can't put it in chat right now. So
put it on Twitter later.
We'll figure it out. But one thing that they brought up is how marketable is something. What did they mean with that? Is one thing that they were suffering is when they were releasing weekly content updates, and I feel that Warframe has had this too, is even though we enjoy as players of Warframe, and pretty loyal players of Warframe at that, getting new weapons every week, it's not gonna get journalists or media to write about it. It's not gonna get you to go to your friends and be like, hey, this game that I'm playing, it's just got a new weapon. And now it's got a new weapon again. It's like there is a threshold where you're going to talk about something, where you're not going to talk about something. And maybe you did personally. Maybe you're like, oh, for time, there's a new weapon in Warframe. I'm going to talk to everyone about it. But it's more likely that you're going to talk about Warframe when it releases a second dream or releases an open world, and there's a bunch of things to it. So we need to look at like how marketable is something. And yes, a Warframe rework is really important and can change a Warframe. However, I do really believe that, well, actually, I don't think I've ever seen a Warframe advertise, like oh my god, we have a new rework of this Warframe. But they do always advertise, oh my god, we have a new Warframe. I do want to make a clarification there. As I'm saying this, I am very aware that they will put up community posts where it's like, new forum threads, we're working towards the Excalibur rework or whatever rework so long to go, and they release it, and it's kind of central, but it's not marketed outside of it. Whereas when a Plains of Island comes out, when a Fortuna comes out, they're talking about Garrett, they're talking about Garuda, it's being thrown out there a lot more. So yes, a rework is very important. I do think that there's a difference between a Warframe and a rework though, and maybe I haven't really like like personally discovered that very clearly, and I need to look into that more. But I do deep down feel that there is a difference. Like, actually, here I think maybe we can find that difference here, and I hope you can help me with this, Xeno. Is that
Sure.
Let's say that Warframe were to release 6 Warframes in a year, and let's say that the following year Warframe were to rework 6 Warframes, and they were to do nothing else. Like the rest is all the exact same. The only thing to do, the first year is release 6 Warframes, and the other year they release 6 reworks. In what year would that? Well, given that they would both be the same pieces of content, like the same classification of content, do you think that there would be a different reaction to how players conceive the content that they've gotten that year? Because if there is, then there is reason to assume that they're different pieces of content.
I'm going to say yes. So one of the updates that came out during the first content drought of 2018, when we actually had the gap between, I see it here. So we've had the Ghoul Purge, we've had Mirage Prime, and we've had so that's towards the end of December. And then after that, we have Shriners of the Eidolon, which was mid-February. We also then had Zephyr Prime, which was early February, mid-March. And then the Beasts of the Sanctuary, which was April 20th. Somewhere in there, I know that there was a rework of so many weapons. No new weapons, but there was a huge rework.
We had
of how the weapons work.
We had the beam weapon rework, and like one thing that I want to bring up around this, and what we are also seeing right now. Well, I don't know right now, but we saw that around this time where we had a huge amount of time between, let's say, the big updates of Shrine of the Eidolon, where we got 2 new Eidolons, and Beast of the Sanctuary, where basically between these times we have an insane amount of time. We had very, very frequent Tenno Gen updates. However, the reaction of a lot from the community was that they felt that there wasn't content. And I would agree with them on that, because I feel skins are secondary content. We're not talking about skins, but yeah, we had the beam weapon rework in there too.
So I think we also had like a redo of Riven Disposition as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel that if we were to have 1 year of 6 Warframes, followed by a year of 6 reworks, no new Warframes, right? People will be very upset, right? I can tell you, I would be upset. No new Warframes for an entire 12 months. Are you kidding? Right? This year so far, we have had
2 Warframes, Hildren and Wisp.
Thank you. Yes, Hildren and Wisp. We've got Speed Boy. I'm just going to call him Sonic. We've got Sonic on the way, and we've got Kirby on the way. Right?
All right, so actually, as I'm sorry to interject, but let's get into this year, because this year we've had the biggest time between releases ever. We've had Mesa Prime and Profiteer came out. Okay, well, let's refer. Fortuna came out on the 8th of November. 40 days later, we had Profiteer. Then Mesa Prime at the same day, and then we had 71 days until Nightwave came out. And I do consider Nightwave very like a constructural element to the game, changing alerts. However, I think Operation Buried Depths is more of a bigger update than Nightwave was in terms of new shiny content where people were like, oh my god, it's shiny content. Because yes, I think that we need to clarify this a lot more as like where is the importance of content and what's the perceived, well, I think it's more perceived importance and real structural importance to the game, because yes, I think Nightwave was a really good structural importance to the game and its future development when it comes to alerts, because Nightwave, I believe, is better than alerts. I did see a lot of people being disappointed with it not being this quest or this full-on lore thing that they thought it would be with the Wolf. And I do think that with the reworks that we saw last year with beam weapons and the Riffins and whatever you talked about, the other things, whatever was reworked last year, it's really important to the game. However, perceived importance was low to a lot of players because they didn't see the content. And they didn't see new primary content. That's where I try to make distinction between primary and secondary content, because as you say, yes, like people, you would be mad if there wouldn't be six new Warframes, but 6 reworks of 6 independent Warframes. Yes, they are important. The reworks are important, but there is a clear difference between these two types of content. So I just wanted to point it out that this year we've had like the largest gap ever.
I gotta be honest, like, so just to jump on it, Operation Buried Debts, that was the introduction of the exploiter role, wasn't it?
Yes, though
was there actually any clan stuff to do with that?
No, honestly. Okay, so let's trace back to the operations, because I think the last operation
apart from the one we have right now,
where clans had any importance might have been Ambulance or Pacifism.
No, I can tell you which one it was.
Which one was it?
It was Plague Star.
No, Plague Star didn't have anything for clans.
Yes, it did. It had statues.
Really? But it didn't have clan leaderboards. It wasn't. You couldn't fight.
No, that was the only thing it didn't have.
Yeah. So
right? It was super weird. It didn't have that, but it did have statues because, like, so one of the big things for me, and like I kind of this is the only thing I impose on my clan, is that when an event happens with statues, you gotta get the statues.
Mm-hmm.
Just gotta get the statues. Gotta get them. Need the statues. And we actually got the statues for, what's the name of this event? Hostile Merge.
Yeah, the event that we have going on right now.
Yeah, so the one before that I distinctly remember was it wasn't labeled as an operation, but it was the event to get back the Strata Relay. Yeah, the one
Pyrrhus
on Earth.
Project.
Yes, I was so upset with that. Not only was there no statue, right, but there was no replay value in the quote unquote event. And yeah,
I don't think we've gotten a really good event in a long time, and we're kind of going off topic, but I think like I've really got to jump on this thing, because first of all, let's go to Operations Buried Depths, where we had the Exploder come out 6 days later. I don't consider that a second update. I thought that was the same operation, and I think that the way that they did that was they were trying to have this, hey, everyone be incentivized to do this scanning thing, and then if everyone scans it, oh my god, you can unlock the Exploder. But it came across as very much like, hey, you gotta do this boring scanning thing first, and if everyone does it and you have to like wait on everyone to do it, only then you can do the Exploder, because people knew that it was coming. And I think that was about actually no, the worst thing was that Hildrun was locked behind the Exploder, and Hildrun was announced. I think that if Hildrun wasn't announced, if no one knew of Hildrun and no one knew of the Exploder Orb, and they would have just shipped the Buried Depths as this scanning event, where they would have made it like this decent event where people are like, oh yeah, it's pretty cool, I'm gonna go out scanning, like, or whatever, like you would add to it, and then they would do that, and then like 2 weeks later it was like, hey, we unlocked it. They were like, Tenno, you've done so much, now we're unlocking something new. The entire experience would have been different, because everyone was just like, where's Hildrun? I remember that I got Hildrun as day one access because I'm a Warframe partner, but there were so many people that were really upset because they saw people running around with Hildruns and they just couldn't get it because no one did the scanning thing. That's my thing with Bird Depths. How do you feel?
So we pushed for a while. Like Loz had this point of view, which was Oxium Osprey. They should have had it so that the Ospreys were out for a while prior to the resource requirement of the for the Oxium, right? Or likewise with what was the nav coordinates for the Derelict? They should have been out before we had a need to use them. This was actually not specifically a gesture, but at least a symbolic nod towards that concept. So the idea is that you go out, get the resource and everything before the exploiter was available, and then you had to spend the resource, right? I was fine with it up until Hildren was available a week early if you bought her, right? I didn't like that, right? For some people, I'm fine with Hildren being available to content creators to do reviews and things, right?
Yeah.
Fine with that. I got Hildren day one, right? Zero issue with it. I don't do build reviews or anything like that. I like to have them day one because I get barely any time to play, and the majority of my time goes into content creation, right? Which hopefully helps the game, but it probably does nothing, right? But let's glaze over that.
Yeah.
So if they didn't give us Hildren until Exploiter had become available, I would have been perfectly fine with the whole thing.
I think so. I kind of segued again with Buried Depths, but yeah. To get back to it, I think that they're aware that there's, I would assume that they're aware that there's a large part of the community that says, hey, something like the Gradivus Dilemma was really, really good, and we want that back, because within those events, it felt like we were having an impact on the world. It felt like I was supporting the Corpus, or I was supporting the Grenier, and I was fighting for my team. And if you were against me, we would fight against you. And if my team was losing on this node, I would stay up all night and try to fight for this node, because I wanted it to be Grenier, or I wanted it to be Corpus. And then we made it, and then everyone was happy, and it would be posted on the forums. And I think that was a really important thing. Gradivus Dilemma did so many things right. And I feel that a lot of events, and this is kind of my point I wanted to interject before we stumbled upon Buried Depths, is that I feel that there are so many things that new operations are getting really wrong. With an example of Plaguestar, but let's keep on the Buried Depths, and we'll circle back to Plaguestar eventually. But Buried Depths, basically what they try to do is have this, or what I assume they try to do is have this feeling of impact on the world. Instead of you just going out scanning enough so that you can get your reward, hey, if you scan enough and everyone scans enough, then we gain this new knowledge, and all of a sudden, hey, because we did this, because you did this thing, then we discover something new in the world. And then that new thing in the world would be this spider, and oh my god, the spider has a new Warframe. I think if this would have been an event where no one knew about the existence of Hildren or the Exploder Orb, and we would just go into an event, and it was like, oh, well, this is a scanning event, and we would just assume that, hey, we're just going to go out, scan some things. And I do believe that one of the major flaws was that, the event was not really all that fun. The scanning wasn't all that engaging, and it was really hard to tell the fractures apart from the scanning. I thought they were both the same event when I played them for the very first time. But if this would have just been a regular event, I wouldn't say Gradivus Dilemma, but just a regular event, that you thought, oh, well, this is a fun event. It's not exceptionally enjoyable. It's not exceptionally bad, but it's alright. And then after a week or 2 weeks, you would kind of see a progress bar indicating that you're done with the event. The community gets reward, and it's like, Tenno, we just got good news. You've been scanning so much. We've discovered new information. And then you go in, and it's like, okay, well, new information, what the hell can this be? And you go in and you discover that, hey, there's a spider here. You fight a spider, and oh my god, there is a Warframe part! There is a Warframe! There is a new Warframe! We didn't even know about this! And then you dive in and you discover the new Warframe. I think with that, the entire narrative would have been different, because right now it was this boring task that we had to do that people felt that War DE was gating, which they kind of were, because at the end they kind of turned down the requirements so that the exploiter would spawn, and the exploiter spawned day one, unlike consoles. Which is pretty bad, I think. So, but I think that is really important to the success of the event.
Yeah, it's I think it's a little difficult though, because I don't think you can hide and obscure content And so, why was the second? Like this may feel a little off.
Yeah.
But why was Second Dream so popular? It's because no one saw it coming. Yeah. So now that they have raised the bar, so to speak, they have to make sure that attention is where it is due. That's why things like The Sacrifice and The War Within were announced for freaking forever, right? Because, like, look, we're going to do Second Dream again. That's why Planes of Eidolon and Fortuna were announced for forever. It's because they were doing a whole marketing campaign. They were trying to raise general awareness for the game on a whole, right? So hiding a Warframe behind, oh yeah, there's going to be some content at some point in time, and hey, look, there's going to be a Warframe at some point in time, and you know, it's. I don't think it's a good idea, because I think in the long run, that isn't something that players are going to shout and rave about, much like the Second Dream. I'm pretty sure that with the release of The War Within and The Sacrifice, it didn't get nearly as much community attention, like, you know, community sound the alarm, as The Sacrifice did, because The Sacrifice was just so out of nowhere. Yeah.
A Second Dream.
So,
you mean?
I apologize. I meant The Second Dream. At least you're on the ball. You know exactly what I meant. Yeah. So The Second Dream, that raised so many alarm bells. It's things with Apex Legends, right? Apex Legends was so out of nowhere that it drove a huge crowd, right? They couldn't rely on the lack of marketing tactics. So when an update is coming, they have to announce it. They have to highlight what they can get from it, so forth. Like, I kind of have an issue with this. Does actually come more to a point of making sure people are aware of things and how they actually release their content and stuff. But I'm not a fan of the new boss, right? I feel that it lacks structure. You don't know what you do. I've had people argue.
Oh, the flight along, the Ropalolyst.
The Ropalolyst.
It's you literally, like, you just enter and you don't know.
Yeah, you enter. Alad V turns around and is like, I'm gonna stab my partner in the back. Stab, 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 stab. Says nothing, right? And it's not until someone goes to one of the platforms that, you know, he actually says, oh yeah, use the platforms, use the reactors to do something. I'm like, can you have said that over there at the start? You know? And when you've got this thing shooting giant death lasers at you, mobility is not really that much of a thing.
All right, so let's let me think about this a little bit, because
Tell you what, let me steer the ship a little bit.
Yeah.
Right. Give your brain a rest. Right. Okay, so we had a huge content drought in 2018. Right? No one denies this, right? Between the release of, well, between January, the start of the year, and The Sacrifice, it was quite droughty. Yeah, we had ESO, we had the Tridolons, and in my opinion, that was it. Right? This year, on the other hand, yeah, we've had quite a stagnant start, right? But to me, since the release of Nightwave, I've been happy, right? So since was it really towards the end of February?
Yes, it's
right.
It's been February, and then
so it was March and April, right? So and like, yeah, it concluded mid-May, and I feel I'm happy, right? I feel sated, right? Yes, again, not as some people have complained, saying that it's not as good as the original alert system. Personally, I prefer this, right? I'm very limited on time where I can actually do stuff, but I feel like I have objectives to do, right? I feel like my reason for playing is very driven now, Whereas before, like, I'd just pop on for whatever reason, right? So even though, if you were to look at it, there weren't a great number of updates thus far this year, I feel that there has been so much more to do than this time last year.
So, all right. So, would you agree that the longer time they take to develop, if we compare this to the start of Warframe, where they would release a weapon every week and then do an operation every 2 weeks or every month, and then every week make weapons again, the longer time they take to develop, the greater the content they can put out will most likely be, and the longer that content might satisfy you?
I don't agree with that.
All right.
So the big logic would dictate, yes, that would make sense, right? But taken from my position as a developer, I can certainly tell you that the more time you spend working on a single code base, the more complex that code base gets. So when you're trying to do things, it becomes too difficult. So a little segue story. I asked directly E.E. Scott on Twitter, would you be willing to put in an ability in Wisp in her kit that allows her to mimic enemies, so she visually looks like NPCs, right? And he turned around and said, like, that's unfortunately not possible. They played around with the idea some time ago, but because of the animation set of the enemies, they can't do it, right? The enemies have no degree of motion in looking up and down and things like that. Their models are nowhere near as complicated as their model. So, like, if they're to do that, your ability to do anything would just suddenly plummet, right? Personally, I'm all for it because I want it for machinima reason. Okay, so I thought there was an interruption with the stream, but is there problems? Are there problems with the stream?
We're solved right now. We just had some problems with your webcam, but it seems like we're good.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Wanted to make sure. Right. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So there are limitations within the code base. So the more complicated the thing becomes, the harder it is to develop. And by the thing, I mean Warframe itself.
Yeah.
Not cinematic quests, not quests at all, not Arcwing. I'm talking about Warframe itself. Look at raids, trials, right? Trials were a hindrance to Warframe's development. They said every single time they added something new to Warframe, they'd end up spending weeks to fix it in trials because trials had game-changing content, arcanes. And the only way that they could really progress in developing Warframe was to take trials out. Right? Like, that speaks volumes. Yeah? So granted, it might take a while for them to release new content, but that might be because they may have to start Warframe again. Right? They might have to take the lessons that they learned now and create Warframe 2.
Would you want a Warframe 2?
Only if it carried everything over. Personally, no. I don't want a Warframe 2. I want them to keep going. Things like World of Warcraft. I love the fact that my character has survived so long, right? But it's difficult. Additionally, designing stuff, right?
So I want to make a little bit of a distinction because I think I don't know much of the back end of things, so it's really interesting to hear that. Well, designing one new thing, like, the more complicated it gets, the more harder it might become to create something new, or create a new animation within it, or whatever, anything. But I also like I want to make the distinction right now between the long development time is like trying to do something really complicated in the code, which might just be like one single thing, to the distinction with, I think that we can make a distinction between 1 week weapon updates and a second dream, War Within, Fortuna, Plains of Eidolon, which is also a lot of asset work, a lot of artwork, a lot of quest work, storyline work. I feel that those are bigger updates where there's more time invested into it than a one weapon update. Would you agree with that?
Oh, I completely agree. I do not dispute that whatsoever. My question to you, though, my I don't want to say rebuttal.
Yeah.
It's
No.
genuinely
Sure.
a question, right? So with development, right? So let's say doing a weapon takes 1 day, right? So say you were to take an artist, right, and they were to model and make the weapon. Say that they did it all themselves, right? That artist is working on something to do with the war within, and then you're like, right, it's going to take you 5 hours, not a full day. It's going to take you 5 hours to make this weapon. We want you to make it, right? How long do you reckon it takes them to get back to doing the war within?
So if the weapon, so there's an artist that needs to create a weapon, and you're giving the artist 5 hours to create a weapon, and then your question.
No, it's more a case of we asked them how long will it take, and they said it will take me 5 hours.
All right. So they said it will take them 5 hours, and then how long would it take to create a war within? Does that mean that?
No. How long would it take them to get back to doing what they were doing in war within?
So does that does that assume that the weapon, that's one weapon design, is critical to the rest of the entire development afterwards for the war within? So they need to have this one weapon, this one weapon model, in order to progress with everything that lies beyond it.
No, this weapon is a Tenno Reinforcements that's completely independent of the war within, but its new content keep the players happy.
All right. So there's one. So I thought it was a weapon within the war within. So it's a weapon that's outside of the war within. How long would it take them if they were to like get an artist to design this weapon and then put this weapon in the game? How much would that slow them down in the war within?
If you were to logically guess.
So honestly, I think it wouldn't take a lot if you could outsource it and put it in the game. It might be if someone designs that weapon and you have to like model it in game, make sure that it works. It would not be more than half a week, I'd say.
Right. The whole point I was trying to get to, right, which I apologize, I've clearly done a bad job of. If you were to turn to someone working on the war within, and you say, we want you to make this weapon, how long will it take? They turn around and say 5 hours, right? They then go, right. So the project manager says, okay, here's the design, go make the weapon, right? A lot of people, I'm guessing in the audience and maybe even yourself, would turn around and assume it would take them 5 hours, right? But that doesn't mean it's 5 consecutive hours, right? You may end up having people turning around and interrupting them. They might have to stop making the weapon because there's a power outage. They might actually have to go to a meeting, which again interrupts the whole process. And there's a lot of things that impact development. Anything, be it code, models, going to work, anything impacts the development process. And when someone says 5 hours, it's not like they are a robot and they can just flip a switch and then go straight back into working on something like War Within. They have to stop what they're doing. They have to then go do something else, and then they have to get back into it, right? A lot of developers, so the average working day here in the UK is 7.5 hours a day, right? Studies have been showing that developers will only ever code for about 4 hours a day, right? Out of the 7.5, because they're distracted from meetings. They need to help their colleagues. They go to the toilet, they go get drinks, they go get some leg exercise. They have to communicate with project managers. And there's a lot more than just making the thing, right? So someone is trying to get my attention, asking a question. Why did DE add those annoying robots in the plane? Because they keep appearing when you do bounties and stuff. What robots?
Hold on.
Annoying robots.
I just want to say that I've been looking at my bot, and my bot hasn't been putting through chat. So I was like, I've been looking at this, and I was like, oh my god, no one's talking. That's weird. And then I open up the page, and now I see everyone's been talking. I was like, well, everyone's quiet. Sure, it's quiet today. It's gonna be interesting with questions. I was like, maybe they're gonna ask.
Oh, the thumpers.
Oh yeah,
yes. Those. Ah, right. They added them in because they thought, hey, look, people. Well, it was conceptual. They thought a tanky thing would be nice to have. It was not a good idea.
I think it is. I think the thumpers are the planes version of the exploder. Because like one really nice thing of the exploder is that you can get fish and mine items through for doing the exploder, and you can get fish and mine items for doing the thumper. And I think that that's for me a really important thing, because even though I enjoy fishing and mining occasionally as like a side activity, I really didn't like that I needed to do that to like get an amp or get like a piece that I needed. I was like, I don't want to do this side activity to get a gameplay important thing. So like for me, the thumper is like, well, I think it's alright. Like, I mean, I haven't done that much, to be honest, but like it's alright because like if I don't feel like fishing and mining, which a lot of the time I don't feel like, I'd much rather feel like shooting something up, and that's why I love the exploder. So
can you see chat now?
Yeah, I can see chat now. So
right,
yeah. So let's see where we were at. We
slightly derailed.
Yeah, we slightly derailed. No, it's
okay.
Yeah.
Let's let's bring some focus back.
Yeah, we need to bring some focus to what are Warframe updates? How do we like we need to find a way to answer the question that we have for this stream. So
okay, are Warframe updates sustainable? Right.
I think okay, so there's a path that I want to walk down, and let's see if we can like try and get to this one thing, and like try and get us towards Warframe. So let's compare the Warframe content creation towards our video creation. I know it's a weird thing, but I think it's something that we both understand and that we can like exemplify, we can make more clear, because we both understand and we can make it clear to our audience. Whereas my entire insight into development and backend and like coding is not that great, so like I don't know how much time things take. But let's say that, all right, we can take an example of making a video. If you make a video every day, your videos might not be of super high quality, but you make a lot of videos, and those videos will be viewed by a certain audience, and people will come back to it. Over time, that might decrease, because if you're constantly doing the same thing, people might get bored of it. So, but it's a way of doing it. And I would compare like a daily upload of something, which is like a decent video, would be like a Tenno Reinforcements, just a new weapon. It's nothing that like is gonna go on the trending tab. It's nothing that people are gonna shout out and be like, oh my god, everyone, you gotta see this video of this person talking about memes. It's like, most likely not, except for it's Elon, then people will. But so you have that, and then you can what like I've done it, I know you've done it with Fully Frame Squad. It's like you can work intense long hours towards a video. Can make this one video which is so prestigious, so amazing, like all the effects for everything added, and then you release it, and maybe it's like once like it's like one, and then 2 months later you do another one, and maybe that video might get a lot of views. But the problem with that video is that in between the time you're not uploading, so people will forget, or not even forget about you. Maybe the big problem might be that they look at that they look at your channel and they're like, well, I want to watch something right now. You're not making a video, you're not doing a stream, I need to find someone else, and they fall off. Would you be willing to go down this idea, this like similarity with me for like updates and videos and video creation?
Yeah, I mean, it's it's slightly different. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe Twitch is a better comparison than YouTube, because there's a lot of YouTube MacGuffins going on in the background that damages the popularity of a content creator, and it is frustrating. We both know this, right?
Yeah.
With Twitch, if you're not streaming, then you're not growing,
Mm-hmm.
right? And some people, like, I remember seeing a number of instances where Daniel the Demon was on stage at TennoCon. He would turn around and say, I had to stream 16-hour days. And I'm like, that's over double my work day.
Mm-hmm.
Over double, right? How on earth he can stand, I have no idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that explains why he is like so much fitter than I am, because he doesn't have any time to eat.
Mm-hmm.
But the other side is the same with Warframe. If you're not releasing updates regularly enough, then you're not seen by other people, other content creators. Sorry, no, not content creators, other people, right? Players, right? Warframe has managed to stay towards the top end of the Steam charts for a very long time because of the model it's constructed. However, if someone like, I don't know, Markiplier, there's a really good example. If he goes away for weeks because he's doing a side project for someone else, and then he comes back and starts streaming on Twitch again, I'm pretty sure loads of people will just flock back to him. He's Markiplier. Oh my god, it's Markiplier. The scale of game or content creator or whatever you want to propose massively impacts your ability to bounce back. So Warframe being as big as it is, with the likes of The Second Dream, with The War Within, with Fortuna, with, I meant Planes of Eidolon and Fortuna, you know, with this growing ascension in scale, dictates how easily they can just bounce back. Yeah.
So I think streams are also a fine way to dive into. I think that's like I'm also very familiar with streams. And one thing, one thing that I want to point out when it comes to streams is that I saw someone say in chat is my friends have a burnout till the new war comes out. I'm gonna jump back to that very soon. But let's say that we're gonna take a Daniel the Demon. He streams for 16 hours a day, where he does streams where he does 16 hours. He puts in so much time, so much effort, and then he makes it. He gets his following through that. I could do 16 hours a day. But if I were to do 16 hours on a brand new channel right now, I would not get the amount of people that he has during his 16-hour streams. But then you say it's the first stream. But if I do my second stream 4 days later, and then I do my third stream, they're all 16-hour streams, I do that the next day. And then my other one, I do it 2 months later. And I do the other one, I do it a day later, and I do the next one a week later. Then everyone that might have discovered my channel has no idea where I'm at, what I'm doing. And even if Daniel the Demon, as where he is right now, would start to adopt a schedule like that, I am certain that there will be viewers that say, hey Daniel, I really like you, like I enjoy watching you, but I have no idea when you're on. And like, I really want to spend my evening watching Twitch, and normally I would watch you, and I would watch you for 4 hours or whatever, or like I'll watch you while I'm working, I have you on in the background, but you're just, I don't know when you're on. Like yesterday you just ended, and then like for a week you didn't stream, and I need to find someone else. I need to find a new person. I need to find a new streamer. And if you're on, like I'll come back to you when like I'll see you on, and like this person's not streaming, but I might be like, I discovered this person, I think he's so cool, like I don't want to leave his stream. So I think that one thing that I think is really important, even more so than when it comes to like, so I do believe that if you put more time and you put more effort into creating something that is bigger, better, or whatever, if you put more effort into something, you will get a better result. Like a stream where very little effort has been put into, or this is why I wanted to take the video example. If I just make a video where it's like I just show Warframe footage, I just like talk, the chance of that going to trending over a video which I've spent a year on with all the effects in the world, and I've just made like the best thing I could come up with. I've done all the Mr. Beast things, and I've done an insane whatever, and took so much time. The chance that trend is a lot higher. So I do think that it might be worth to like take more time and not be very, very frequent. But if there's no schedule and no one knows when things are happening, then it's really weird. Then no one knows what to expect, and people might turn off. And I think that when it comes to I think Kareem was saying that my friend has a burnout until the new war. I think that one thing that Warframe is lacking at the moment is a clear schedule where it's like, hey, let's say Warframe releases an update every 3 to 4 months, or whatever the sweet spot is. Then I can play this game until I'm like, well, I've enjoyed it, but like I'm starting to like enjoy it a little bit less. Let me go play something. Let me go play something else. But I know that this day they're gonna release this new thing, or this week they're gonna release this new thing. So I'll be back for that. Because what I feel right now is that they're just playing and playing and playing, and like, oh my god, I'm waiting for this new update. I'm waiting for the new war. Hopefully it will come out, and they just play on and on and on because maybe one day it will drop, and then they just like drop out, and then they don't really come back because like, yeah, when is it gonna come back? Like, I don't know. Let me find something else, and then they find something else.
I think that we have to consider two different angles to this.
Mm-hmm.
When they started off, they were constantly pumping out updates, and they were doing whatever they could to improve the game.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't just producing any old crap like some YouTubers do,
Mm-hmm.
right? I've looked at some of the bigger YouTubers, and I'm like, how are you gaining any traction? I've watched 2 minutes of your video. I am bored to hell.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not talking any Warframe YouTuber. I'm just talking like, I think there's some YouTubers I found like got 1 million odd subscribers, and I'm just like, my god, you are so boring, right? But Warframe took a different avenue, a different approach.
Mm-hmm.
Every update has been done to upscale the game,
Mm-hmm.
right? We can say that with the Tenno Reinforcements. We can say that with Warframes. We can say that with the operations, right? Everything they have done is to upscale the game. But my comparison with the likes of, I said his name, Markiplier, right?
Yeah.
Markiplier is bigger than Daniel the Demon. Markiplier is bigger than any of the Warframe Hans, right? He is massive by comparison, right? And the point was that even if he came back after 2 weeks, 2 months, right, enough of his viewer base would come back and drive attention to him, right?
Mm-hmm.
PewDiePie, I couldn't stand PewDiePie to begin with, but he has grown with his audience, and now his videos are more appealing, right? I hated the whole, oh god, what was it like? Hey, it's PewDiePie! He's, oh my god, stop, right? But likewise, with Warframe, they have grown to a point where whatever they produce needs to be of a substantial quality. And thus, in saying so, the content has to be good enough. It can't come out when it's not ready. Yeah? It has to come out. It can't be like, oh yeah, give us another 3 years and we'll get it out to you. It'll be good. It needs to come out in a timely manner. Like, no one would dispute that. But it can't be like, here's a deadline. What are we making? What is this Anthem? What kind of game is it? Right? what's all this? What's all this like verticality? What's going on? I'm so confused, right?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway,
Actually, I just want to react to Kareem in chat. Poppy Gloria has been cited in the latest episode of 10 o'clock. Find it in the description or go to youtube.com/10 o'clock. Poppy Gloria did show up. She had something to say, which she couldn't give her opinion on. But yeah, she's out of a job from Punion, so she moves on to 10 o'clock. Yay! But
what?
Don't you remember? Poppy Gloria showed up in 10 o'clock?
No.
Oh my god. Doss grabbed his Pew News hat when Poppy Gloria showed up.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. Watch 10 o'clock. Yay! But yeah.
Has the stream... Oh, no. It's just me being confused. It's fine.
Yeah.
I was like, the stream's very, very still. I was like, I don't know. That's just me being still.
No, I'm just holding still until you think we're frozen. So no, yeah, okay. So Warframe definitely has the presence to take their time, to take their sweet time. But the question is, all right. So I think that the question we got to kind of like move towards and round off towards right now is like, how sustainable is it? And do you think that the way that they're going right now, because what I feel is happening, is yes, they can take their sweet time, and yes, like I would much rather have an update that's finished than over and over an update it's out on the deadline. But what I do feel is that it's very unclear as to what Warframe is doing. With yes, they do the dev streams, but last week we feel that like out of the like dev streams are being overhyped on a scale 4 out of 5. That's what we settled on last week. And I think that that's not a really clear indication. It's like, okay, it's not a really like clear indication to me as a player. If I feel that that's the case, what is happening? So as long as I enjoy the game, that's fine. But if I'm playing the game and I don't really have a lot to do, and I'm like, well, I quite like the game, but then they're giving me something about this new war thing. But when is it going to come out? If we look at the precedents, if we look at, like, let's go back to right here, the update schedule. If I'm playing right now, and I'm like, which is a pretty reasonable thing. I've done a lot of years. I'm not really interested in like a new weapon or a new Warframe. I want to have like a substance update. And honestly, like I think that like veteran players definitely have a case to speak for, because we haven't had real endgame content in a sense that really satisfied veteran players. A lot of it has been easy. I haven't really discovered really hard content. I haven't seen it, and I think since the Plains of Eidolon, it has been pretty easy. So it's like, how long do I have to wait? How long do I have to hold out until I get the content that I'm hoping for? And if we go to, the Plains of Eidolon, actually, let's start off with update 18, because I think the second dream was it's a really interesting start, because that's when Warframe got like a big release and people started writing about it. What you see with like update 18, update 19 came around like 11 months later. In between that, we had Lunara and Spectre of the Rail and Silver Grove, but like that was update 19. The next number update was a year later. Then the next number update was 4 months later. Hold on, I'm skipping through this a little bit hard. Was 4 months later. Then the next number update was 3 months later. Then 2 months. Then 8 months. Then 4 months, and then 6 months. And it's like, it's really unclear to me if I'm in the position that I am and I'm just playing this game. I'm like, all right, well, let's say that they bring the new war on the horizon. They tell me about the new war. I'm like, okay, that is what I want. I really want that story plot. I really want that storyline. When is it gonna come out? Like how long? What? Like, you don't know. And what I think the danger is with that, or what I feel is happening, is that people are like, well, I can't wait for the new war. Or what you see with once TennoCon released their announcements of like Fortuna, people go and play the game, like, I'm gonna play this game and I can't wait for this thing to come out. And then they're like, well, when is it gonna come out? When is it coming out? And they're just getting annoyed with the fact that it's like it's still not here. It's still not here. And then they completely burn themselves out. And then they're like, well, I'm not touching Warframe again. I don't want to play this game anymore. I just don't like it. I need to find something else. And I think that I've seen that with people that were watching my stream. I've seen that with people that I know that are making content about Warframe that were just so burned out with it. Whereas I think, and maybe this is more of a content creator's perspective, that if I know that, hey, Warframe releases content every 4 months, there is like something, there is like a big release, like new war comes in 4 months or whatever, I don't know what the timeline is, then I can be like, hey, I might like start playing Warframe, or start streaming or making content for Warframe like a few weeks in advance, like just to get back into it. Then play the update and be super excited about it, and play it on for like a few more weeks until like I feel a little bit more tired about it. I'm like, okay, well, let me move on to like this other thing. But I know that in a little while, Warframe will have this crazy new thing where I come back to, which I think that over time might be a more sustainable thing, because if I completely burn out on Warframe, chances are that I won't come back. But if I'm like, okay, well, I've played this game now, I'm a little bit alright, but I know that sometime in the future we're gonna have something new, then I'll be coming back. But like right now, yeah, okay, well, I'll cut it short. You can so you can react.
Okay. So 2 points.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I'm going to tell you the 2 points first.
Yeah.
So then you can remind me to elaborate on the second.
Yeah.
First off, is the development cycle, like is the way that they're doing updates sustainable, right?
Mm-hmm.
The second point is burnout, right? Okay, so please remember burnout.
Yeah.
With the first point, is the Warframe update practices sustainable? If you were to ask me a year ago, I would have easily said no, right? It's not sustainable. There's too much dead time. Like, I'm bored, I'm burnt out, I've got nothing to do. But given the way that they're doing the night waves, I think that yes, it is possible. Right? My suspicion, right, is that night waves won't return until post TennoCon. Right? That is not good. Right? I feel that they should come back after this event.
Mm-hmm.
But my suspicion is that they've decided to delay it till post TennoCon, only because of the number of Tenno that will actually go to TennoCon and not be able to do it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I won't be able to actually play on PC, and I'm not happy at the premise of losing 2 weeks worth of Nightwave. Right? Sorry, a week's worth of Nightwave. I apologize. But if they decide, oh, we're going to do it straight after the event, thumbs up. Are you down for that? Do it. Do it now. The other side, so Nightwave and battle passes and things like that, that is the way to make sure that there's stuff to do, at least for my mentality. There are plenty of people out there that don't enjoy this horrible grind fest, and they much prefer things like the lore, the new environments, the new the events, the new mission types, and that is leading on to burnout. So one of the most important things with Warframe, or with any game, give yourself a break, right? So many people I know play Warframe or anything to a crazy number of hours, right? Loz, I'm sure, has years worth of time on World of Warcraft, right? I know I have over 2,000 odd hours in Warframe, but even so, when the new event started, well, actually, to be fair, I would have jumped on the event was I able to. The new patch started, I was patient, right? I knew that there were going to be bugs. There's always bugs, right? If people think like, oh, it's going to be perfect straight off the bat, no, there's always bugs, right? I played it. I played the Ropalolyst straight away. Dumb. I played the Ropalolyst from the such a dumb name.
I just call it Flightlon. Flightlon. It's like, come on. It's so much easier.
I played the boss with a friend, with Mecha Mario and 2 puppies. And we glitched the boss, and everyone was booted from the game apart from me, and I was host, right? These bugs happen, right? There's no two ways about it. These bugs will always crop up and appear, yeah? But another thing, Joey, right? He burnt through the entirety of the Jupiter content in like a couple of days.
Yeah, he did.
Why? Like, now he's got nothing to stream.
Well,
Now he's got nothing, it's like, oh, but I've got to get it. Oh, I need to make my videos. Oh, and like...
Well, okay, so I can understand. Okay, so I can really understand Joey, and I can feel that myself too. So over the weekend, I have like made all my builds for like the videos that I want to put out this week. They're a little bit delayed because things got in between. But the reason that I do it is because if I want to make my videos, I gotta be early on with them. Like, if I want to talk about a Wisp, if I want to talk about the new weapons, I want to be early on with them. But at the same time, not just with, like, making the videos, but when I'm doing a stream on Monday, like, I want to, because I stream, I want to be able to, like, if someone comes in and they have a question about Wisp, I want to be able to, like, tell them, like, hey, I've looked into Wisp, and this is how I feel about her, and this is what I'm running with her, and, like, we can discuss it. Other than that, I'm like, okay, well, Wisp, I'm going to talk about that next. I'm going to look at that next week. I'll save that. Because if I save that, then someone might come into my stream, they might not understand Wisp, and I come forward like, I don't know either, because, like, I'm not looking at that yet. I think that for me as a content creator, like, I want to, like, get into that as fast as possible. And it's also part of the competition that we're in. Like, if you are not releasing, like, if you are early with your videos, let's just say if you're early with your videos, you have a slight advantage because you have less videos about the same thing, and at the same time people are more likely to search up and look for Wisp in the first weeks that she's out than like 5 years down the line. Unless she gets a rework, and then people will go back to it, and you see all these videos pop up. So I can understand Joey's side of things as to why he had to go through it, and also why he's now burnt out because he's done everything. I can also understand that you're like, well, I'll just give it a little while. I wanted to jump on the Nightwave thing because you said I felt that last year it wasn't sustainable, it wasn't good. Now with Nightwave, I do think they've turned that around. I do want to put a critical thought with that is that we've only seen one iteration of Nightwave, and as I saw someone saying in chat, which I fully support, like I totally see myself in that, is that I felt Nightwave was super amazing the first few weeks, and then I got really tired with the challenges, and when I hit level 30, I just stopped doing them. I just didn't do anything with them, and that I think is a weak point for me, and I've heard other people talk about that as well with Nightwave, where they were like, well, some challenges, and then I'm like, well, we've only seen one iteration. So far, I would say Nightwave was a success in improving the alerts and maybe doing more, because especially the first few weeks, I really felt that what I was doing, Warframe, even though it was the same thing, it felt more important than anything else that I did before because I had these challenges. But that normalized really fast when like I just got really upset with the challenges because they were like, do 5 swords. I was like, yeah, sure. That being said, so like I think that like Nightwave for me, I'm not ready to say that that's the sole thing that can like save Warframe because I've only seen one iteration of it, and I don't know how they're going to continue it and how that will be perceived by the the big majority in like the bell curve that's playing. So like who that consists of, I'm not quite sure. I think it's a bunch of like new players, but it's also a lot of mid-level players and then some veterans. And I think it's really important to see like how will they go about Nightwave, because if people don't really like it anymore because oh my god, like they don't like the challenges, which I've definitely seen, then maybe it's not the savior which might like save the entire like I just find it hard to believe that Nightwave as it stands right now with the one iteration we've seen, I'm not ready to call that the thing that would be like the one thing that saves Warframe for like being sustainable forever, if you get what I'm saying.
I get where you're coming from, and I think it's important to have downtime. So if you got to level 30, yeah, stop. I did. Mm-hmm. I think I got to like... Actually, technically, I think I got to 44, but that was only because I was just playing the game. I wasn't actively trying to do the damn thing. I think it's important to take a break. So if you got to 30, and yes, you too rightly said it's their first iteration of Nightwave.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's a fact of they're not waiting to start the Nightwave till consoles have had the Jovian Concord, because that's where it's secretly hiding.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Nightwave Season 2, with all the updates and everything, is secretly hiding inside the Jovian Concord. Anyway, I'd like to think we have answered the question. Yeah?
Well, okay, so if we would take our Warframe update sustainable right now, what would you, like, how would you sum it up?
I would say as long as they have long, drawn-out content, like the Battle Pass system that is dubbed Nightwave, the answer is yes, right? If they didn't, and it was waiting months on end for any substantial content, I even include ESO and arbitrations as substantial content, even include aura formers as substantial content, then I would say no, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they made the right move towards these battle pass sort of updates. So personally, I think yes, it is sustainable, and I think they'll do whatever they can to make sure it is sustainable.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, like when you say it like that, I do think that like a battle pass system is something which people can take and go to the rank 30 and be like, okay, now I'm done. And I'll just put it down until like the new battle pass comes out or a new update comes out. So I think that satisfies people with, hey, I have something to do, which is meaningful, and then I can drop it, which I think is a really important thing, and that allows them to do like the marketable releases, which they couldn't do when they did all the Tenno Reinforcements, which were like really fun for the players, but weren't really like, you couldn't really bring that to like a games journalist or like bring it out and be like, hey, everyone, look at this, because it was just a new weapon. And I think that for Warframe is really important that they do have something to bring out. I think there's a lot more that we can talk about. I think that it's a good place to finalize it on. Do you want to take any questions from chat?
Yes, although I've literally just lost them all. Could you please read them out?
I don't know if they've already started putting a question.
I actually got them to start.
Oh, you did? Oh no! All right. So if you guys have any questions, let me see if I can.
So unfortunately, I was stupid. I thought I'll just pop it out, and I didn't realize that it would actually scrub chat. So someone asked something about self-damage. That was the first one I saw.
All right, so Shoshun asked, why haven't they fixed self-damage yet for explosive weapons?
There's nothing wrong with self-damage with the explosive weapons.
I don't think so either.
Like, it's you're meant to... Okay, sure. Let me hand you this grenade. I'll pull the pin, then drop... I'll be over there, and then you drop it and see how well you survive. Yeah? If you can survive a grenade next to you, then they need to fix self-damage. I'm sorry, I'm being a little harsh, but my baby, the Tonkor, had to die on a hill. It's not dying in vain.
Let's see. Tribal asks, hold on. I'm gonna take more questions that are like popping in. So if you have already written down your question, like put it in again, because like otherwise I have to scroll up, and I'm gonna lose track.
Scroll up.
If people are typing in chat, then the chat will go down again, and I can't keep up.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, Tribal asks, do you think more content with less quality is better, or the opposite? So, quantity over quality idea.
It has to be a balance. You have to have... It's a really fine line, because otherwise you'll end up with stuff like Warcraft 3 taking forever to come out, or StarCraft 2 taking forever to come out, or you end up with crap like Anthem.
Yeah, I think it's I think that is the biggest question for me when it comes to Warframe sustainability. That there's this idea that, hey, you can release something every week, which is fine, and it might satisfy the current player base. But the fact of the matter is that PvE games will always decline in numbers, because like there's only a finite thing of content that you can do. Like, PvP games will keep themselves going because, like, fighting new people, you will always be fighting new people. There is, like, a difference in, like, how long they'll, like, keep themselves going. So yes, like you will satisfy players if you would release less higher quality every week. If you would release a Warframe every 2 weeks in a weapon, and you would like split up a Fortuna update and like release everything like every week. But the thing is that you will satisfy a player base which will be declining. And that's also which is why I draw the comparison with YouTube, is that I know that the people that watch me on YouTube and that watch me on Twitch, it's inevitable that people will move away from the channel. And I totally understand that. Not because, well, maybe because I'm an asshole. But I mean, like, they get to know me and they find out that I'm only doing this because I want to satisfy my ego. Oh my god. You know that one streamer that was like, yeah, I personally just think that I'm better than everyone, and it's such a horrible thing. It is TwitchCon. Did you see that clip?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was horrible.
No, wait, I know of it from, oh god, was it Young Turks?
I don't know.
I know of it from somewhere else, but
yeah.
If someone did it at TwitchCon, it's just like, oh, good job.
It wasn't TwitchCon. People were asking, so do you see yourself as a role model for your audience? And this person responded with like, yeah, I see myself as better than the average person, so I don't think people should take me as a role model. It was so bad. It was so bad. But anyway, yeah. So like, I know that like things will be declining, and if I continue to do the same thing and I don't like do something big, then like you can't reach an audience, so you need to like have like the big update, which would be marketable. But yeah, let's go to the next question. You can pick the next question.
I can't see them.
You did. You just popped out the window, right? So like you can see new questions. We were gonna take new questions.
It's not a question. Not a question. It's not a question. I don't see any questions.
All right, I'll look for questions then. Guys, put in new questions.
So the person about the I can't read their name. Thing is, we can survive grenades and missiles and bombards, but not ours. It's inconsistent. Oh, damn, that's a really good point. Mm-hmm. We could survive the enemy's attacks, but we can't survive our own. Oh, damn, that's made me second guess.
Yeah.
Are new frames always content, or are new frames with lore content? I feel that lore is certainly content. New frames, yeah, they can also be considered content, but it's not content that lasts. Nothing like a quest. Quests can drive people playing for longer, new open world environments. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
All right, so actually, I want to talk with you in another podcast about different player types, because I think that there are players that would be very satisfied with a new frame because they really like to play with like new mechanics and discover how this new frame fights, and there are also players that really love the lore, and to them, a frame that has no lore is dead in the water. They're just like, I don't care. It does. What is this frame? And I do sometimes associate myself with either of these groups, because I've had frames that would just come out. Like there was one that recently came out. I don't know. There are a few frames that recently came out where I was just like, well, what's the point of this frame? Where like this is a frame, but like where does this come in? I think it might have been Garuda, and I don't think Garuda has any lore. And I was like, what is this Garuda frame? It's like she doesn't work on the planes. Or Fortuna, she's not an open world frame, but she came with the open world. There is no lore behind what she is or what she does. It's just, here's Garuda. What am I supposed to do with this? And it's like, I feel a much stronger connection with something like Valkyr, because Valkyr has this lore of like being like taken taken into captivity by the corpus, and the corpus did things with her, and like, you know, you feel more to that frame because it adds more to the personality. I don't have anything with Garuda. I don't.
They did talk about introducing comics for the Warframes, the new Warframes and the past Warframes. We've not had one yet. You know, we've had Wisp, we've had Hildren, we've not had a comic yet, right? And I think the lore behind them is really important. I think we should have lore for Ashe, for Excalibur, for Ember, but we don't have anything. right? And I think that the majority of the player base doesn't care, so they've not pushed for it.
No.
Which is really sad, in my opinion.
It is, and like I even think that comics aren't like I think comics are a great place for like a spin-off series, but I think that if you want to have something that is in the game, it needs to be in the game. We shouldn't be like a Destiny 2 where, hey, you want to know about this? Go to the wiki. Find it out. Find it in this like one weird obscure web page. It's like, yeah, I don't consider that to be like real part of the game. Which is like, I don't think to me, I don't understand what the goals are. I know what the goals are, but I will maintain that I don't know what the goals are because they one day just popped up and they were like, Tenno, goals! And I'm like, well, what are the goals? There's an amazing story in the comics about the goals and how they were created, but it was never in the game. It just said goals popped up, and I'm like, I'm still upset about that, Warframe.
Well, you know that the background lore for the ghouls is on the website. It's not even in the comics.
It's on the website, but like, it's not in the game. Yeah. You need to go to the website. And like, I just want to have that story told in the game. And like, the best thing would have been if you would have like this cinematic scene of like the past of whatever of Fayhack. But even if you couldn't do that, just see this person telling you like, hey Tenno, hey, so we've discovered this transcript from the Grineer, like this and this, so and so, and it seems like these Grineer have been residing on the plains, and now after years they've started to pop up, and we don't know what to do. Please help us out. Instead of like Lotus saying their ghosts popped up. Well, why have they never popped up before in the past 5 years? Well, I don't know. It just popped up.
It's really difficult because there's so many like. They're taking it from a new player's perspective. If a new player started now, they wouldn't know that the ghouls never came, so that they weren't there before. So I can appreciate that angle, but at the same time, like the comics that they have done, just integrate them into the codex, right? Maybe I'll actually push that for Pablo. Like, Pablo, could you please integrate these comics into the codex? Because that would be brilliant.
Well, I think that it's fine to take it from new players' perspective, but I want to put like a very big asterisk to that. That I think it's more damaging to a game. Like, you don't have to say like they haven't been around for 5 years, but why are they in the game now? Like, why? What? Like it's much better if I'm a new player and I watch like. If I go to like see this person and they're like, hey Tenno, I need to tell you about something. These things have been dormant for years and now they're coming up. You know, even if I'm day one, that's fine. However, the precedent that's been set with the planes, and it's been very much set with the way that the planes were released, is they just popped up one day. All of a sudden, an open world was there. Without, if I wasn't watching a dev stream, and I want to iterate again, that's like 99% of our player base does not watch a dev stream. It's like our dev stream numbers are so low. So it's like the majority of players, they just log in. Boom, there's a new node. Where the hell did this come from? What happened here? It's like if you establish a universe, and this is what I think is so important. It's like if you're watching a story, if you're watching a movie, if you're playing a game, it's like there has to be ground rules within that universe. It has to be grounded in logic. There has to be a base logic of physics of everything around you so the story makes sense. Because if this game would just like do all random things, and one time you could like swing your melee weapon, and then your next swing, it just like you. Like the melee weapon shoots off and you can't use it and you die. It's like, that makes no sense. You stop playing the game if there's no sense in it. And that's what happens if like an open world is like, boom, one day to the next, there's a new open world. So tomorrow there's a new open world? Like, what the hell is going on here? Will notes just disappear? Will just like you need to ground your universe in a certain reality. So if there are players, even new players. If I'm a brand new player to the game and I started off 2 days before Plains of Eidolon came out, I had no concept of Plains of Eidolon. Boom, all of a sudden there's a new node. It's like, is this a usual thing? I don't know. It's like, it's really bad. I think it's a really bad way of like, I think it's really bad story writing. I think it's really bad like integration and really bad world building, because what you want to make is a universe that feels alive, that feels like it makes sense and you can live in. But if it's just like, oh yeah, if you want to talk about it goes, you should have just watched the dev stream. If you want to know that this thing's coming up, you should have just watched the dev stream. Like, I don't care about the dev stream. Get that out of here. I don't want to see it. It's like the dev stream is nice. It's 4 out of 5 times overhyped. But the dev stream is nice, but it needs to make sense in the game, which is something that I feel is really important.
Cool.
Yeah.
Like, any other?
I think we've done a good podcast, good discussion. I'm excited for next week. What we're gonna talk about then.
We have to work that bit out, don't we?
Yeah, we have to work. Yeah, if you guys have any suggestions, leave them down in the comments below, and make sure you check out Xeno on YouTube and everything.